Hi, I'm Ryan Malyar, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Arts for the Masses. Yes, the arts are alive in Massachusetts, and it is my privilege to be able to bring you fantastic arts programming about shows and productions and exhibits happening right in your neighborhood. And today I'm delighted to be speaking with some folks from the Concord Players on their upcoming production of Urinetown. It hasn't opened yet. It opens in May, and of course I might be a little biased because I happen to be in that production. We'll get into that in a little bit. But joining me today, we have Shelby Art-Koljonen and Jamie Cook. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So let's just talk about Urinetown in general first. When did the show open? It was 2001, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I have the script, and if you're interested in reading the script, the published version has this great sort of walkthrough of all of the whole process of the show, which started off as this tiny little weird off-Broadway production with very odd subject matter that was eventually transferred to Broadway. So, in a nutshell, what is Urinetown? What is Urinetown?
Yes. What is Urinetown?
Not the place, of course.
The musical. Exactly. Well, Urinetown the musical is the story of a place that exists in the future, and it's a world where water is at such a shortage because of a massive drought that people have to pay to be able to urinate, to be able to use the bathrooms because there's not very much water. Now, they don't go very much into the other things that a water shortage would cause because mostly we want to focus on one thing. They say that and they explain it in the show. And about how our society would respond should that kind of shortage occur. And it causes a massive separation between the rich who control the water and the poor who do not and have to pay to use it. And you see that power struggle. And surprisingly, it's massively funny because they do it through a very tongue-in-cheek, spoofy, odes to lots of classic musical theater style, while also just having the most clever, ridiculous comedy. So it works magically well despite a weird subject matter.
And they even say, what a bad title for a show, too.
Exactly.
So they intentionally poke fun at it, yet it is simultaneously this very serious subject that is sort of covered and glossed over with this musical comedy. So how do you, as a director, how do you tackle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are many ways to attack it, I think. Many directors do it in different ways. It very much it tips its hat a lot to a Brechtian theater style that we all learned about in theater school, in a way of really trying to tell the audience you're not just supposed to sit here and take it in. You're supposed to feel something. You're supposed to want to act after seeing it. And so you could do a lot of things on that spectrum. You could come right out and make it about America now, or you could make it about America in the 1960s. You could make it very on the nose. And I think something wonderful that we're exploring is looking at it as every America and everywhere that we could be, and not picking out a specific person to mock or mimic or do, but to tell the story as the writers wrote it. And then it inevitably forces you as an audience member to sit and afterwards go, wait a second, did I just see something really serious? And do I need to think about that? Instead of just taking it in. But we aren't ever going to upset you during it. It's not till afterwards.
Which is interesting because the fascination behind Urinetown, everyone thought it was going to be a flop. And that a different show called Bat Boy was going to take over the season that year in 2001. But Urinetown actually came out right before 9/11. And the entire world didn't want to sit through a really serious show. No one was prepared to sit through a show, especially Bat Boy is about a post-apocalyptic world, like in a bunker. No one could face that. But a really disheveled, really dark America where you have to laugh and through all these really dark situations was exactly what New York, especially at the time, felt like. And I think that really contributes to the Urinetown we have now, is that original production and everything that it adjusted to be able to be specific and successful. I think they realized what they needed to do was, even in those really dark moments of like, what am I watching? You're still so invested in these characters and the world that's around them.
It's incredible. And like you said earlier, it pays homage to so many different styles, not just theater styles like Brecht that you said before, but musical theater styles. And you get to have a lot of fun as the choreographer pulling from these different genres. What are some of the different things that I was watching, there's a song called Cop Song that I was watching the other night, and it is just hysterical. And you've done a very different take that I haven't seen before. But explain what that is.
So Cop Song is this moment where all the cops who are kind of patrolling get together to talk about all the different people that they've arrested and how they maintain order. And a lot of times it's meant to feel like a number that's out of place. A lot of times it feels very robotic, mechanical. They use flashlights. And we've decided to kind of take it in a different route and pay homage to that Bob Fosse, Chicago, cabaret, musical theater style that is very iconic to people who know musicals and even who don't. You see Cell Block Tango, you know what it's from. It's such an iconic moment. And I thought to myself, it feels like that. It has that like papa feeling that some of that, Candor and Ed, Fosse material has. And our Lock, Stock, and Barrel are so perfect for that physicality that once we kind of settled on our cast, I was like, oh, I know what I want to do with that one and really play.
What other ways are we using to differentiate the different class systems which are so prevalent in the show? We have the rich and the poorest of the poor, and there's not really much in between.
Right.
So what is the physical vocabulary that you're using?
Yeah, so we did a whole kind of talk on that first-ish day. Shelby, went through with the rich kind of in isolation and the poor to talk about physicality and body language. And then I came in to incorporate it into dance. So I think there's a rough and tumbleness to the poor that is very like gritty and down and dirty. And then a lot of, showgirly hands and that posture that really sets them apart. And that's just using physical movement. And I'm sure, our costuming will really set apart those class divides. Same thing with hair and makeup, especially where we're kind of going with a 50s, 60s era energy in the styling, which there couldn't be a better time period in American history that really had such a big divide between the poor and the rich physically.
Now, we're still in the process of blocking things right now, but are there any particular moments that have popped out so far as just like moments that you've just been waiting to get your hands on and are really coming to fruition now?
Oh, I mean, any of the physical comedy moments. She was talking about getting those kind of stylized movements and the rich getting to do this and the gritty of the poor. The great thing that Urinetown lends itself to is nothing subtle. And so it's so fun to block every person. There have been moments with every character on the stage, from the ones who have 50 lines to the ones who have 2, and seeing that subtlety go away that you see when you first try something as a human, and then to go, okay, and now do it in this Urinetown physicality, and to see the extreme of that, and then to get to truly tell people, keep going until we tell you to pull it back, which every director says, but this time we're actually having to be like, pull it back. Yeah. It's fantastic because it brings a whole new level to the scenes that we're exploring. And so things like, I don't want to favor the person we're talking to, but there have been moments with you especially as you are playing with dancing that really stand out as not at all subtle in the best way, and it tells the story so beautifully.
Well, I've had the opportunity to see quite a few shows at Concord Players, so I always like to go into the space beforehand to see how things play, and it is a wide stage and it's a deep stage as well, and the audience goes back very, very far. So I've seen subtle shows and more honest shows that work there as well. So I know that small can work in that space. But even as I feel myself on top of a platform far away, the actor in me always feels the need to pop and project out and sing out, Louise.
Yeah.
And this show like that lends itself to that showiness as well, and that sort of overt display of emotions and character.
Exactly.
Without feeling like I'm just being an over-the-top theater performer.
Exactly. It's nice when other people are doing it too, when it
Yes.
fits in the world of the. And so it's nice to see that. We're seeing it a lot, even just at last night's rehearsal with Pennywise, Vanessa, who's playing Pennywise, having those moments as well. So it's even both in the rich and the poor, these big bursts of movement and energy and comedy.
And as everyone else gets more comfortable with each other, you feel that freedom to do even more.
Exactly.
It's just like, those first rehearsals where everyone is so polite with each other and, hi, I'm Ryan, and now that we're on our feet and moving and sweating and singing full out, it's just opening up the doors to, okay, the show is opening and not too far away. Full out or get out.
Yeah.
That's not your mentality here. That is,
No,
that's another theater.
And it's a show that requires a lot of trust from a lot of people. There's a lot of comedy that relies you to trust everybody to go full send with you. And there are such pure, genuine, sentimental moments that you really need to trust the group around you. And I know you felt this way. We've talked about it many times. That first callback day into our first rehearsal, you could already see magic happening of people who'd just met, people who've known each other for years, people who had maybe done one show with each other, being like, oh, you're here, and us knowing like those pieces are going to fall exactly into place. And Urinetown is such a beautiful show. I love it. And I think,
well, you have experience with Urinetown,
I do.
or as do you. So tell me a little bit about.
I believe the same.
Yeah, we played the same.
We both played Little Becky in Urinetown.
Different
separate production.
Yes, together and conjoined. Yeah.
Twins. I did Urinetown in college, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I am a huge fan of musical theater. So for me, it is such a love letter to theater. It is such a testament to why musical theater is so great and has such amazing capabilities. And I think it's the perfect show for a place like Concord to do for all of those reasons. It has such a solid community and a huge variation in knowledge and style.
It's a smart show,
Yes.
and Concord brings in some smart audiences.
Yes.
So I wonder, you're also part of the play selection committee.
Yes.
Was there any resistance to this show, which notoriously has such a weird title? How did the board of the Concord Players react to the submission of Urinetown?
We have a lovely selection committee that has a great process of like pitching shows and running our interview process for directors. And I think that's always a question that's going to come across with a show like Urinetown. And I think it takes just a little bit of trust. But right in that first monologue of Officer Lockstock, they acknowledge what a weird title it is. They acknowledge that this is going to be a kind of floating concept. But at the end of the day, about 30 seconds later, you realize the show is about so much more than that. So I think once you have a great team behind you, and I will say whether or not they are on the active production team, Concord has such a strong backbone of production members that are present on every show that you have a soft net to fall back on if anything happens. So we knew we were in good hands.
And even from the beginning, from our first read-through, as someone who's new to the Concord Players, I felt that the team had so much care and understanding of the piece that I automatically felt like I was in really good hands. So thank you. Thanks.
We're happy.
So you bring so much knowledge and history knowledge and past experience. What are you drawing from it for your version of Urinetown?
Oh, wow. I mean, yes, all the things we've talked, Jamie and I have had many meetings about drawing from a lot of musical theater things, even just in dances. We've talked a lot about that, from Fosse to, well, now I'm not going to think of anyone but
Fosse, the fiddler.
we've got Evita moments. We've got all those great moments that can be alluded to on stage. So I'm drawing from a lot of that.
Well, one thing that you said in particular was right from the beginning, you said, I've got a lot of ideas, but you're going to have more ideas and you're going to have better ideas. And that just felt so empowering as to someone in the show. And, depending on the process of a show, sometimes I want to be hand-fed everything. I want to say, you move here, you move here, you move your arm here. But to have the luxury to experiment, even in a tight block, is very rewarding as an actor as well.
Yeah, I love being able to do that. I think my most fun theater experiences have been when people really give me all the tools in my tool belt and then empower me to use them and to explore and get comfortable with the people around me. And then you put kind of a skeleton on it, I keep saying, these rehearsals, and then they fill it with all the kind of muscles and tissue and stuff, and then you zhuzh it together. And we work together kind of more as a team versus just telling you exactly what I want it to look like and us seeing Shelby's Urinetown, which would be interesting enough. I enjoy what I bring to things, but man, it's so much more interesting to see the people's Urinetown. This is a show that really lends itself to that. And I think what really drew me to it in my past experience with Urinetown and having worked on the show before is that at its core, to me, it's such an ensemble show. Even though you can name the leads, unlike some ensemble shows where no one even has a name, you can name these characters, but you couldn't really say, oh, this person is the lead, because everyone has a song, everyone has a thing. It would not make any sense without the poor and the rich there behind each of those groups, or we wouldn't care. And I think that Cladwell is only as powerful as his team, and Bobby, our young ingenue, is only as powerful as his team. And I think when they feel like a team and not by like 6 characters behind him, it all makes so much more sense. And it's so much more rewarding to participate in as an actor and as someone helping to produce that. So that's really important to me to create, is to get us all to where we're working as a team and then say, here's some things you can try in this. Now I want to see which one you pick,
right,
versus telling you which one to pick today, right, and just seeing my own mirror image on that stage, which nobody wants.
So with a show that's so well known to performers, sometimes it's hard to crack that mold, we've listened to the cast albums so many times, and, having done your own production and seen many productions, how does that influence how you cast the show this time around?
Yes, that's a great question. This is I find that of all of the shows I've directed, this is the most difficult in that regard, because some of the jokes are written in a very certain way where it will land one way. Some of them can be played 20 ways, but some really are written with a specific comedy tip of the hat in mind. And so some of them we really have to have exactly as written and as we saw it kind of created, maybe on Broadway or maybe in other productions. And we are kind of borrowing from those in a few moments because it tells the story the best. I keep coming back to that. But the great thing is we really went into this having seen recordings of the original, community theater productions, high school productions. We've all seen it at a college, and then seeing our own productions and knowing what we liked and didn't like, and then also getting to go, but I haven't ever really seen this. Let's see if we see something new. And so it was really a lot of playing with, oh, this is different than I've ever imagined. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Let's go with that one because it's new and exciting, right? Yes,
absolutely. And I think there are moments in it that are so iconic, but there are definitely moments in it that you and I have said, I had never seen it done before until I saw this person do it that way, and now I can't see it any other way, which is not the original iconic way that most people see it, and it takes us to be like, trust us, it works. We've seen it be great before. And sometimes it's just that people came in those initial auditions and showed us exactly the take they were going to do. And that was different. There are a couple of people I could think of that just came in and we were like, well, yes, that is exactly what we are looking for and want. And then they brought it again to callbacks, and now we're getting to see it play out on stage.
And I think I think you alluded to this earlier, we're getting to form the world around that. Instead of us bringing in a preconceived thing, the way you put dancers onto a show when you've already choreographed it, this was very much, we have our members and now let's figure out who the cast is and form around them and how can we best feature them and take what they gave us in callbacks and take what they're giving us in rehearsals and run with that.
And I felt that as well, that especially in your choreography, that you are playing to the strengths of the people that you have gathered. When you have some dancers, and you are having them dance, where some of the pro movers are featured but are looking good. And that's an art all to itself. Tell me about your dance background and what you know.
So I would say I ended up in my journey in New York. I was living in New York and being a performer, but I ended up as the assistant to an amazing choreographer that we went all around kind of the Northeast, and I assisted him a lot. But the joke always was that he was like the Encyclopedia Britannica of choreography, and I was Wikipedia. Quick, easy to access, I knew how to describe. So I come from a family of teachers. And so I think a skill that I bring to the process, or I hope I bring to the process, is the ability to almost immediately say, that person's not going to get this. I don't want them to feel like they're failing. So I'm going to adjust to show them off in the best way humanly possible. And I think to me, that becomes more interesting. I never want to see 20 people doing the exact same choreography if 2 people very clearly can't keep up. I don't think that's what it's about. And I would rather balance it out and maybe give half the people something slightly different to make it look like there's variation going on stage. To me, representation is super important. In a show like this, if you don't have representation, you're kind of missing the point. So I think for us, it was really important that even though there were rich and poor, not all rich and poor were built equally.
Right.
Some people in the poor would have different varying dance abilities. Some people in the rich would have that as well. So I didn't want to stack the poor with incredible dancers and then the rich with like really good movers. So we found this beautiful blend that allows us to not only have really impressive dance numbers with one group, but great visual numbers with both. So that's what I pride myself on. I love that.
It. Now, we haven't gotten to the end of the show yet, but it really has this sort of deliberately ambiguous ending. Do you agree with me here? I mean, the whole show is dealing with this, you know, the sort of Robin Hood story of the poor uprising to outsmart and get rid of the control from the rich. But then it's sort of revealed that maybe the rich were kind of right all along. How do you wrap your mind around that?
And that's actually my favorite thing about this show is that there isn't the cookie cutter happy ending, and it doesn't tell you, so this is our stance on it and this is where you should be when you leave. And I think that that's the most Brechtian of all, is instead of giving you the answer at the end and going, see, those were the bad guys, he goes, see, we all have flaws and none of us are the good guys, and kind of everyone dies eventually, so where do you want to be? You know, like it's a depressing and it's a wake-up call at the end, while also having just laughed for 2 hours and still being able to laugh at yourself about that and go, man, yeah, where would I fall on this? And you wind up not leaving necessarily talking about the big song and dance you last saw, but leaving and going, wow, which one would you have fallen into, do you think, if we were in that society? Right. And then you go, oh man, remember when they tapped? Like, or whatever, you know? So it's a amazing show in that way.
And I think something that's really important for us all to, or at least I'm always remembering, is that we are doing this show in Concord during the 250th anniversary of 1776 and the Battle of Lexington and Concord. And when we talked about Urinetown, we thought there's no better show to depict the scrappy New Englanders during that revolution, because we here in Massachusetts were not a well-organized militia getting ready to go in organized. We grabbed whatever we had and we fought tooth and nail, and it was the birth of revolution, which is what this show is about. It's about people grabbing a plunger and the hope and then running in and fighting off the richest that they could. And that is our story, and we didn't necessarily figure it out right away. And there were still moments after revolution of like, what did we do? We weren't ready to fix this, you know? And I think that is such an important thing as this anniversary, this 250th celebration, which Concord is about to dive headfirst into in just a few weeks. People are going to come from all over the world to see where the birthplace of revolution really was. This is a really great reminder of that.
And that's always a question is, well, did this show age well? because we look at Golden Age musicals, and all the recent revivals of some of these shows have had to be reworked significantly to address many different issues that have really changed in how we as a viewing population, what is acceptable on the stage, and what stories we are willing to participate in as performers and as audience goers. This show has aged well. Don't you agree?
I really think, I think this show is timeless in that way.
And I think it's because they didn't, at the time, they would have drawn analogies to different political figures or different classes, but they kept that generalism of these character archetypes, which is a very Brechtian thing to do as well. And I think that's part of what's helped it continue moving forward.
Yep, because I think if you give the audience if you spoon feed the audience exactly what your thoughts are, that's when it doesn't age well, and when you set it right in a spot in time with opinions of that. And I think, by allowing that amorphousness of it is a wonderful thing to view, and then to view for years to come.
And it's not tied to anything. It doesn't take place in New York City. It doesn't take place in 1982. It doesn't take place in any specific time, place, region even, really. So it allows you to put it wherever you find it most effective, which I think allows it to be timeless in that regard. You are taking it with the setting it's in to influence your decisions at all.
Amazing. Tell me a little bit about yourself as the performer, artist, director that you are, because we haven't had this conversation. Who are you, Shelby?
Yes, well, I can let it tell. So I'm originally from Southern California, a very small town where I grew up doing every musical I could get my hands on. So I had a wonderful community theater. I participated in there from the time I was 12 until I graduated high school. I actually directed my first show at age 17, one of the community theater shows. So it's actually the thing I've been doing almost the longest. So I'm happy. I'm very comfy and happy to be doing it now. And I did Into the Woods when I was 17, as we all do at some point in our lives.
And the junior version wasn't even available yet.
I did the junior version. I was the first. The junior version. No, I'm not that young. I was one of the first ones. They were very new scripts. But our theater at that time was only able to do the junior versions. So we did the junior versions. And then in college, I got my degree in acting, but also was kind of emphasizing directing. We just didn't have that emphasis at our school. And I went to Fresno State for that. And then right out of college, I set out on tour with Missoula Children's Theater. So I toured with them for 2 years, and that wound up being the best time of my life. And that's where I really learned, I feel like that's where I really cut my teeth directing. Even though it was with youth, it taught me all of the ways I move about the world now, not even just in theater, in the workplace, in my relationships, everything. It taught me how different and diverse and wonderful the world is, what different skill sets people bring in, how everyone can be a theater person if you give them the right tools and if you encourage them, and how those skills lend themselves to everything else in life, and communication and responsibility and all of those things. So that was amazing. And I got to see the world, which was pretty fantastic. And then I went and worked helping to run that tour for another 4 years after that, based in Montana. And that's where I met my husband, who then he ventured out to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we weren't married yet, and I wanted us to be married someday. So I also ventured to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and the rest is kind of history there. I moved to Cambridge and was able to start working with theaters in the area, while also still having ties to Montana and getting to go back and direct there as well, which led to contracts in other states like Nebraska and musicals all over, because I love musicals. And so, I wound up having my current job is full-time at the Brandeis Department of Theater Arts, where I get to help run the technical side of theater there during the days. And then my nights I get to spend doing the artistic side of theater, exploring with community theaters and theaters back in Montana.
And we're so grateful for you carving out that time to do Urinetown.
Oh, my goodness. It's the dream. I wish it could be a full-time day job. So.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Any last moments for our audience?
Urinetown is spectacularly funny, if you can't tell from our giggles together. And the cast is unlike I've ever encountered in community theater. And I'm not just saying that yet. They're they're pretty incredible, and we're very, very lucky to have them. So we really want people to see them.
That's right. And I hope you'll join us as well, and you even get to see me on the stage. How's that? Urinetown the Musical plays at the Concord Players May 2nd through the 17th in 2025, and I hope to see you there. I'm Ryan Malyar. Thank you for tuning in to Arts for the Masses. And if you're an arts organization in Massachusetts or beyond, please be in touch. We film right here at WMCT TV in Marlborough, but I'm always glad to hop on a Zoom and bring you on virtually as well. Take care.